Hi there, welcome to the video. Today I'm doing my October wrap-up, and I read 7 books in October, so I'm just going to jump right into it because I don't have a lot of time. So the first thing that I finished in October was The Lies of Locke, Lamora by Scott Lynch. It's the first book in the Gentleman Bastard series. I gave it 4 stars. It was really good. I think it lost a star. Honestly, now that I've read the next book in the series, I actually think if I reread it, it would be a 5-star. I gave it 4 stars because I feel like I didn't understand what was going on, like what the purpose of the story was, or like what the personalities of the characters were supposed to be. But then by the second book, I understood, like, okay, this is what this is, and I absolutely loved it. Spoiler alert for a few books into this wrap-up. So the Gentleman Bastard series, it's The Lies of Locke, Lamora specifically, is kind of advertised as this giant heist story, and I feel like so it took me a long time to pick it up because that's how it was sold to me, and I'm not huge on heists. That's not a buzzword for me. It doesn't make me want to read a book. If it's about a heist, I most likely am going to be like, I don't want to read that. The only reason I ended up reading The Lies of Locke, Lamora is because one of the booktubers that I really like gave the whole series 5 stars, and my husband read it. And he said, Sarah, you have to read this. It's so good. So I finally ended up picking it up, and I really, really enjoyed it. It took me a while, like I said, to kind of figure out what was going on and like what I was supposed to be thinking about these characters and stuff. But once I actually got into the story, once it got past the heist part, like the main beginning, like the beginning of the book is a heist. And once it got past the beginning of the book, that's not a spoiler, like I said, it's the beginning. Once we got into the actual meat of the story, I was so invested and I loved it. Again, I don't think I really quite understood the characters basically through the entire first book. I thought we were heading for something, like I thought we were heading for one thing and it ended up being a completely different thing. So, hey, I need to make this video really quick, and then I ramble about a book for 3 minutes. So that was The Lies of Locke, Lamora. I really enjoyed it. If you're not into heist stories, don't let that deter you. I think everyone should read this. If you're into fantasy, you should really read The Lies of Locke, Lamora and the Gentleman Bastard series because it's really good. It's not finished. I think it's going to be 8 books, and he's working on the 4th one right now, but there's 3 out, so pick them up. They're really good. The next thing I read was Well Met by Jen DeLuca. So don't judge me that I gave The Lies of Locke, Lamora 4 stars and I gave this book 5 stars. So this is a hate to love romance. It takes place at a Renaissance fair. And I said in the reading vlog where I was reading this, it was very atmospheric 5 stars for me. So like, that's not the word I'm looking for, but we're just going to go with it. I read this book that takes place at a Renaissance fair around the time that I went to a Renaissance fair. And actually, while I'm talking about this book, I should be wearing my cloak. Hang on. I've already said every time I talk about this book, I'm going to wear the cloak. I have to get my money's worth. I said when I first read this book, like in the reading vlog where I read this book, I said it was the 5 stars was only because of the time that I read it. I read it right when I went to a Renaissance fair. I was on like the Renaissance fair high. So reading a book that took place at a Renaissance fair, I almost felt like I could insert myself into this story, like I was there because I had just experienced it. So do I think this is objectively a 5-star book? No. Did I really enjoy it 5 stars worth when I read it? Yes. So it got 5 stars. Hate to love, Renaissance fair, just generic romance book. I really enjoyed it. Back to my normal outfit. The next thing that I read in October was Peter Pan. And I know this is a loved classic by many people. I gave it 2 stars. I really didn't enjoy it. I enjoy the Disney movie better than the book. And I know that's horrible, but I didn't really, it was just very all over the place. I didn't really understand what was going on. Peter seemed to have multiple personalities. Like, he was mad one second, and then he was excited and flying around the next, and then, I don't know. The only thing that saved it was the ending, which obviously I'm It's a classic. I feel like it wouldn't be a spoiler, but I'm not going to say it just in case anybody hasn't read it that sees this video. The ending saved it. That's really the only part of the book that I liked was the ending. Other than that, I just felt like it was very all over the place, which I guess is kind of the point. It's a magical story, you know, but I don't know. And also, it was a lot more violent than I thought it was going to be for like a children's classic. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite. Moving on. The next thing after that, I had to cleanse my palate with a 5-star, and that was Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch, the second book in the Gentleman Bastard series. I loved this book. Like I said, I think by the second book, I kind of knew who the characters were. I knew how they played off each other. I knew that they were flawed, and I loved this book. And I don't even like pirates. It's Red Seas Under Red Skies. It takes place on the seas. I don't even like books like that, but I loved this book so much. This book follows the same characters as the first book. They go out on the seas. That's all I'm going to say. It's the second book in the series. I'm not going to spoil it. But it was a 5-star book for sure. I absolutely loved it. The next book I read was Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I don't know how you pronounce that, but that's her name. This was another kind of hate to love. It follows a witch and a witch hunter in a world that's supposed to be, it's like modeled after France, I think, but it's called Belterra. It doesn't take place in France. A lot of people say it takes place in France, but it takes place in a place called Belterra. And witches are evil and they need to be burned. And we follow a witch, Lou, and she ends up through circumstances, for reasons, being married to a witch hunter named Reed. And this just follows their story. This book, I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It went in a completely different direction than I thought it was going to, which I should have known. It's kind of a big book. It's like over 500 pages, I think. It's not just a generic hate to love, oh, I'm supposed to, you're my enemy, but I'm going to fall in love with you. It wasn't like that. There was a whole overarching plot that I really enjoyed. I think it could have been a little bit more concise and we could have gotten a little bit more detail. I know it's the first book in the series, but I don't know. Like, I really enjoyed it. I just wanted more from it. And like, they took a long time explaining some things that I didn't really care about, and then they kind of glanced over things that I was really interested in. So I think that's why I took off a star. But I did really enjoy this book. If you're at all interested in that plot, I would read it. I read it in October, so, you know, witchy read near Halloween. It was good. I enjoyed it. My last 2 books of the month were both audiobooks, and those were Dark Chocolate Demise and Buttercream Bump Off, which are both part of the Cupcake Bakery Mystery Series by Jen McKinley. I kind of screwed this up. I read in September, I read Sprinkle with Murder, which was the first book in the series. And then I was like, oh, they're cozy mysteries. They're kind of episodic. You don't have to read them in order. So I listened to Dark Chocolate Demise, which is the 7th book in the series. While the story made sense, and you can totally listen to them in whatever order, you really can. If you don't care about like the character relationships, you can read them in any order because the stories are completely separate. They're like cut and dry in each book. So in that regard, like, it was fine. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. However, some things did happen, interpersonal relationships with the characters, that I was like, wait, when did that happen? Or like, because I was kind of invested in them from the first book. So after that, I went back and I was like, okay, I'm going to read these in order. So I read Buttercream Bump Off, which is the 2nd book in the series. And that title is hilarious. Dark Chocolate Demise, the whole series takes place in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so in this book, there's a zombie walk taking place in Scottsdale that the Fairy Tale Cupcakes crew they have a truck set up to sell cupcakes at this event, and someone ends up getting murdered. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Good time. 4 stars. So then Buttercream Bump Off was another 4-star read for me. And that one was about our main character, Mel. Her mother goes on a date and her date ends up dead. They're all cozy mysteries. They're all about the same. They all like follow the same kind of plot line, but they're just so enjoyable. And I had a really good time reading so many of them in October. Like, it was just the perfect time for them. Those are all the books that I read. Oh, actually, and then the only other thing that I want to mention is a book that I started in October, but I did not finish, and that is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I got about 130 pages into this, but I was nowhere near finishing it. But I just wanted to give it a little mention because this is the physical book that I was reading for the last part of the month. These plus all of the audiobooks are what I read in October. Let me know if you read any of these books, what you thought of them, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!